today, as you can see, we're doing lavender. And I am not exactly sure who recommended this one, but I really love it, and it felt really good for me for today for a bunch of reasons. It's really, really windy and scary outside where I am, and lavender is not a scary plant. It's really, really good plant to help people stay happy. So
yeah, a tree branch fell on me and my dog squealed.
Oh, I hope it was a little one, just a little branch.
Yeah, it was medium size.
Yeah.
It fell on my shoulder, and then it fell on the back of my dog.
Woo, but you're okay?
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I've been watching branches fall all day. It's crazy. Jaden, you have a comment or a question before we get into lavender?
Yeah, we actually use it for anxiety.
Yeah.
Bees like it too.
Yes, exactly. Those are two big things that we will talk about today. That's great. Oh, what'd you say?
Oops, sorry, I think it was Liv who wanted to do it, correct?
I think so too. Liv looked really excited when I brought up the picture, so cool.
I think so.
Yeah. So another one of the reasons why I wanted to do lavender is because I felt like it was a good plant to move out of our soils lessons over the past couple of days. When we talk about lavender's ideal growing conditions, and hi Baron. Make sure I can see everybody. Elijah, just so you know, I can't see you, but that might be on purpose. So just if you have anything to say, just unmute yourself. So today, lavender, lavender's Latin name is, well, it has a few Latin names. Lavandula angustifolia is the most common Latin name that is used these days, but it's had other approved names in the past, and the other one was L stands for Lavandula officinalis, or Lavandula, and it's also a member of the mint family, Lamiaceae. Does anybody want to help us all to remember any of the characteristics, the special characteristics of the mint family? Elijah. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Do you have anything to say about mint? Are you going to type it? Okay, cool. I can't hear you for some reason. Anybody else want to tell us about the mint family? Jaden.
Well, there are a lot of plants right here.
There are a lot of plants? There are over 7,000 plants in the mint family. It's a really, really big family. Does anybody remember, here, I'm gonna bring up the next slide. And let's see if maybe I can make it bigger. Does it look big to you? I wanna see if I can present and also still see you. Give me 1 second. Does this look bigger to you? Can you nod your head, yes or no? Okay, sweet. So, who wants to tell me, what does the stem look like of this plant? All right, Liv, go for it. Keep trying.
Squared.
Yes, exactly. The mint family always has square stems. That's an important characteristic. Who wants to tell me about the flowers? These lavender flowers. what do they look like? Anybody have a descriptor? I can go back to, whoops, this photo. Jaden, let's see if I can hear you with your mask on. Try.
They look very tall, and I don't know if it's all, but they look purple. Is that
Sure.
all, or just?
Well, no. So lavender flowers are always purple. Not all mint family plants are always purple. A lot of them are. It's a pretty common color. And we can talk about that in a second. Let's see what Liv says about the flowers. I can't hear you. I'm gonna go ahead and, so they look like mouths. Is that what you were gonna say? So the name Lamiaceae, the mint family name, is the word lamia means mouth or lips. So mint family flowers always kind of look like open mouths. They have this kind of like bottom and top look to them. That's a very characteristic. Another characteristic of the mint family that's important when we're, well, two more, is one is that they always have leaves. They often have leaves that are opposite each other. So see how these are directly across from each other on the stem? That's referred to as opposite. And also, mint family plants, especially the ones that are the most common to us, are very, very aromatic. They have wonderful smells and wonderful flavors that are really attractive to us, but they're also really, really attractive to other creatures, pollinating insects, beneficial insects, animals, cats, wild creatures, and we as humans have weaker senses of smell than a lot of critters out there. So if we can smell something really strong, imagine how far away, how many creatures can smell these plants when they're around. And that's one of the reasons that make them so medicinal, one of the reasons why they are used so often in cooking as herbs, and one of the reasons why they're so great in our gardens for beneficial insects. So this is what lavender, there are I think about 40 different kinds of lavender plants. This here is the one that I am most commonly familiar with, but there are some that have leaves that look a little bit different. They are related to rosemary and sage, which is always also in the mint family. And they have, sometimes their leaves look more or less like rosemary or more or less like desert sage or things like that. But this is what they look like when they're not in flower, when they're not in bloom. I want to check in on the chat. Eliana has this form. This is the form that I have too. Whoops. Come on. There we go. Oh yeah, and Liv, that's a great comment. So I said beneficial insects really, really like lavender, but mosquitoes don't like it at all. Mosquitoes and flies, various types of flies, are repelled by that really, really strong smell. So humans think of it as like a clean, fresh scent. We use it it's in all sorts of hygienic products and cleaning products and bath and body products and that sort of thing. And it's been used that way for hundreds of years by humans. And it's also been used for a really long time as an insect repellent in houses to keep moths away and mosquitoes and flies away. Because in previous times, in previous centuries, people used to live with their animals, like with their livestock, like cows and goats and sheep, and live in much, much closer quarters. And people didn't have window screens or even glass windows at all. So bugs would just be all over the place. And lavender was found pretty early on to be helpful to keep those bugs away. So does anybody know where lavender comes from? It is not a native plant in the United States. Jaden, you want to give a shot?
I think it might be China.
It is not China, but good guess. Liv, you want to try to unmute yourself? Keep trying. Try one more time. I can't hear you. I'll give you a second to type. Whoop, I just gave you a cheat. Europe. Yes, you are correct. So I clicked on the map too soon. I'm still getting the hang of this presentation. But it generally comes from the area of the world referred to as the Mediterranean. So this area that surrounds the Mediterranean Sea, which has a bunch of these different countries in it. You can see all of them on the map. It is native to places like France, like southern France. It's common, I believe, in Spain, some parts of northern Africa. This is North Africa here. Parts of Eastern Europe, which is over here. And all of these kind of areas. So does anybody know what it's like what the climate is like, what the soil might be like? Does anybody have any ideas? Have you learned about this area of the world? Liv, try to unmute yourself. Keep trying. Sometimes it just takes a few seconds and then it starts working.
No.
Gotcha. Yeah, there you are.
Okay. It's cold.
It's cold. It's actually not very cold. Up here in like when you get up into like Romania and like Ukraine, up here it is really cold. But down in this area around the Mediterranean, it's actually not really cold at all. Do you know, is there anything else that you have guesses about maybe?
Maybe it's like I think it rains a lot.
Here, I'm going to show you another picture of the same exact map. So this is that satellite image that Google gives you. So this is what's called a political map. This one here, it's just like shows you the borders. This is what this area looks like from space. I'm not sure if this will be helpful to you at all. But does this look like anything to you? Any part of this? So, this area, this whole region around the Mediterranean Sea is actually fairly mild, especially up here. It's like a mild climate, which means that the winters aren't very cold and the summers aren't very hot. They get pretty hot, but not super hot. And it's actually fairly dry in a lot of these areas and kind of like mountainous. Does anybody remember, or does anybody know about islands, how islands are formed? Eliana.
They're formed from water volcanoes.
Water volcanoes. Totally. So these islands all around here, you can actually kind of see, if you look close down, in these photos, you can actually see the darker blue color here is actually showing you deeper water. So where it's a lighter blue, that's because the land is shallow. And what we're seeing here is the tops of, essentially the tops of mountains, the tops of volcanoes that rise out of the sea, rise out of the ocean. And that also means in a lot of cases, like here on like the coast of Spain and the southern coast of France and Italy and Greece, these are all areas that are really, really like rocky, and their soils, does anybody have a memory from when we were learning with Nicole, what kinds of soils might be in mountainous areas? Jaden, is your hand up? I'm unmuting you. Is your hand up, Jaden?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name exactly, but I think it was like her favorite one, correct?
Well, so that could be one of them. Her favorite one was actually was a lot of clay. So maybe my question was kind of challenging because there are a few different. But how about the age of soils? How old is like the topsoil in mountainous areas?
I don't know, but real quick, I can't see.
You can't see?
No, nothing. It just blank.
Are other people seeing what I'm sharing right now?
No, I can't see it either.
Huh. That's weird. Liv and Baron and Storm can see it. Are you on phones?
I'm on a computer.
Okay. I think Jaden's on a phone. I'm not exactly sure. So what I'm showing is a map, is a satellite map of Europe. Can you see this? Hold on. Can you see this?
It's
Weird.
so blank.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not really sure. It seems like most of you are seeing it. I don't know why it's not working for others, but maybe we can try to figure out in another class. So I can just explain what we're looking at to those of you who can't see. This next map here it's hard to see, but it's just an example. Do you remember seeing a map that looked like this when Nicole was teaching the last few days? Does anybody want to give, you don't have to go into huge detail, but does anybody want to explain like a little bit about what this map is showing? Liv, try to unmute yourself. Keep trying. I think usually if you just wait a few seconds, it starts working. Not getting you. There you are. Maybe you should just keep your computer unmuted and then it'll just be that way.
Okay.
So what's this map showing us?
It's showing the different types of soils in the different areas.
Yeah. So this area that my mouse is in, which is like Spain, southern France, Italy, North Africa, there are this color here that I'm seeing is soils with significant accumulations of calcium carbonate. So lots and lots of calcium. These over here, this like light orange color, is young soils with moderate horizon development. So that means when we are talking about horizons, that means that they're young topsoils. This area where things grow is like relatively shallow, and that's all important information that tells us where lavender likes to grow. This is where lavender comes from. Lavender is native to this area. It loves this kind of soil, and the soil is young. The soil is also calcium is also an indicator of calcium is one of those alkaline chemicals. So calcium carbonate is something that would put our soil on the spectrum of alkaline rather than acidic. So just as like that, I'm just going to kind of keep bringing that up to you all, that pH scale of how our plants like things. So where I live, I think where Liv lives, we have acidic soil. I still grow lavender because there are other things about growing lavender that my soil conditions love. And one of the reasons why people in the United States grow lavender a lot, especially in our kind of region where we all generally live, is that we actually have, where I live in like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, And even in parts of, Oregon, Jaden, it might be a little bit different where you are, but we have a climate that is actually very similar to the Mediterranean. There are a lot of plants that I grow that I have grown in lots of people's yards, that I have taught a lot of people about in Philadelphia, that are actually Mediterranean plants. And that's something really cool to remember, to keep in mind when you're thinking about how to grow, like what you want to plant in your garden. You can find plants that grow in other parts of the world, but that have similar growing conditions because of where in the world, like along around the same latitude. Do you guys know longitude and latitude? Have you learned that in school? Cool. So generally along the same latitude is a way for us to guess what plants we might be able to grow in our areas. And there's obviously a lot of other things that go into it, but that's something to keep in mind. So the growing conditions that are natural to lavender and the planting conditions when we're planting lavender in our gardens are that it, like I said, it prefers neutral to alkaline soil because of the soil that it originates from. It prefers full sun, really likes sun, but since it comes from this more mild place, kind of more temperate place in the world, it also doesn't like constant sun in really hot places, I should say. So if you live in a really hot place in the summertime, giving it a little bit of afternoon shade is actually a good idea. It really doesn't particularly like fertile soil, so that's really good for me when I live in my sandy area. Has very low fertility because all the nutrients get washed away by water all the time. So lavender actually likes where I am in general, and it tolerates low fertility. It tolerates really poor soils. It also really prefers well-drained soil. So it's kind of, it's not a desert plant, but it's more along the lines of desert than a lot of other things that people commonly grow. So in a garden landscape, lavender is like a small shrub. So you see this picture here. This is a picture I just pulled off the internet that is of a lavender farm. This like beautiful, idyllic type of place where you just see lavender growing for like miles and miles. And this is, I believe, this is supposed to be a picture of it growing in one of the places that it actually originates, which is Provence, France. And you can see about how tall it gets. So when it's at its like maximum height and its maximum flower, it's generally only about 2 feet tall, maybe a little bit taller. And when it's not in flower, when it's just in its leaves and stems, it's only about 1 foot tall actually. So it's not very big, but it does get shrubby. It does get kind of bushy. Let's see what's in the chat up here. Sorry, sometimes I'm still having trouble with this presentation here. There we go. Sometimes I lose all the things. Storm absolutely loves it. You love this photo? And this, yeah. Yeah, it looks really beautiful. I can't imagine being in a place that looks like that. Does anybody have questions about growing conditions before I move on to some other things? Liv, that's a good question. What types of nutrients does it like? Is that, yeah. So I'm not exactly sure. I would actually say that considering that it comes from, so like I said, it prefers low fertility, which means low amounts of nutrients in general. The what are called the macronutrients, so like the bigger, the higher quantity nutrients that plants usually like, that farmers and gardeners think about, are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So it probably means that lavender doesn't necessarily need huge quantities of nitrogen, potassium, or phosphorus in order to survive. Because it likes alkaline soils, and because it comes from those places that have high amounts of calcium carbonate, it probably really likes calcium. And low fertility soils a lot of times don't have high calcium. But you can, so something that has high calcium in it, I believe that limestone is high in calcium, but eggshells are also almost entirely calcium. If you eat a lot of eggs, you can crush up eggshells and actually dissolve them in vinegar, which is really interesting. And then you can use vinegar in that vinegar with calcium in it in very small amounts. You can dilute in water, and then you can water your plants with it. In places, tomatoes actually need high calcium. So that's one of the reasons why I know that. That's all I got for that. I'm pretty sure that's, that's a thing. Those are things to think about. So the next few things I want to talk about are the medicinal and the culinary properties of lavender. Lavender is a super popular plant. It's so popular in aromatherapy, in herbalism, in cooking, in baking. I would say it's probably one of the plants that most people in the whole world know about, especially in the United States and in Europe. So it's, I also didn't mention it's evergreen. So its leaves are green year round. And it's used in tea. It's used in, like I said, aromatherapy. So the oil from the plant is distilled, and I'm sure you all know what essential oils are. Shake your head yes or no. So it's very commonly used in its essential oil form. The amount of lavender that is required to get a small amount of essential oil is like extreme. I'm not sure if you know that, but I'll try to look it up. I forgot to look it up, but there's usually like a gigantic quantity of plant material that actually goes into essential oils. So it's really nice to be able to just use the plant itself. The flowers and the leaves and the stems all have a really beautiful scent. And you can have that scent around without having the essential oil, which is super concentrated. But it's also really nice in baths. It's nice, you can like steam it. Instead of making tea, you can steam it and just inhale it in steam. You can take it as a tincture, which is an alcohol extraction. It's used as an ingredient in baking and cooking, like I said, and you can also make a salve with it or insect repellent with it. It's a pretty awesome all-purpose plant. Some of its health benefits, and I didn't make these. These are things that other people made that I just popped in here. But they are. Oh, Jaden, do you have a question? Okay. It improves your sleep. It helps to calm you down. One of the things that Jaden said at the beginning of this class is that it's really great for easing anxiety. So that's a lot of what it does that's a lot of why people use it. It calms people down. It helps people fall asleep. It improves people's moods. It even relaxes dogs. It has antioxidant properties. It's good for your skin and your hair. It's nice in a salve for healing burns and wounds and bug bites, just like a lot of the other plants we've talked about. Really great for all sorts of skin ailments. And it's good for headaches and earaches also. Does anybody have anything else specific that they have used lavender for in the past, or things that they've done with lavender? I know that Jaden said that he uses it for anxiety. Does anybody else use it? Storm, do you wanna, what do you use it for?
I use it for smell and for prettiness.
For prettiness.
And for smell.
Cool. That's awesome. It is such a good smell, and it is so beautiful. I can't wait. Mine have not flowered yet. Mine are still babies, but I hope that I get flowers this year. So I think the next one, so something that's really common in, especially so where it comes from. Remember I said that it comes from France, it comes from the Mediterranean, and one of the regions of the world where it's grown the most, where the giant farms of lavender, the fields of lavender are, is in this place in France called Provence. And the herbes de Provence are very common for like savory cooking. So people will use this recipe, a bunch of thyme, marjoram, summer savory, rosemary, tarragon, basil, fennel, chervil, mint, and lavender, all together mashed up with a mortar and pestle. That's what this is here. Dried or fresh. It's, if you're going to keep it a long time, you want to dry it out. But it's really, really lovely as a marinade for like meats or for you know, various like savory vegetable dishes. And yeah, Liv says that'll have a lot of flavor. Yeah, it's a lot of different flavors, but it's really, really aromatic and lovely. It's you know, a lot of people use it for it's especially used for marinades, for like rubs for meat. But when people think about lavender, they don't generally think about savory dishes. They think about it's like, it's a flower, it's like beautiful, wonderful, lovely, pretty smell. And I wanted to tell you about herbes de Provence because most people don't think about lavender in those forms, but it also is used in a lot of recipes that are sweet. Lavender is very, very popular pollinator plant. Bees and other pollinating insects absolutely love it. Lavender honey is something that is sold, that's like honey that bees make from pollinating lavender, large quantities of lavender. But you can also make your own lavender honey, which is just by taking the flowers and infusing them in honey. So putting lavender flowers into any kind of honey and letting it basically steep, kind of like a tea, over a long period of time. And then the lavender flavoring, that aroma will kind of like move throughout the honey, and then you'll have lavender flavored honey. Lavender syrup is a similar thing, but instead it's in a sugar water combination. So sugar, water, and lavender. Lavender and lemon is a very, very common baking combination. Some people make lavender lemonade. People make lavender lemon bars, lemon flavored lavender shortbread, lemon meringue pies with lavender essence, all sorts of things. There's a whole range of that sort of stuff. And then a lot of people, like I really, really love lavender ice cream, which I've only had once. I had it when I was visiting my sister in Maine a couple years ago, and it was like the best thing ever. So lavender and cream is another kind of combination that's really yummy. It's a very strong flavor, very strong scent, so you can overdo it and then it just tastes like you're eating like soap. So it's important to go easy on it. Jaden, you have a question or comment before we run out of time? I got you. I unmuted. I'm trying to unmute you. There we go.
Okay. Today we are actually gonna make, well, we put flowers in our smoothies.
What kind of flowers?
And also like violets, dandelions, sometimes. Well, mainly just today. But like violets, now that they're popping up, we're gonna do that. And also I can see again.
That's good. I know. I saw. You guys are totally, totally in love with lavender. I love these comments in the chat that you're putting. It's really hilarious. So the last thing, I think this is my last slide of the day, which means I did a good job with time today. one of the very common ways that people use lavender flowers is just in these, like, well, I guess the word is sachet. These things are little sachets. So you can just, it's like potpourri. You all know what potpourri is. So you can just make your own little baggie of lavender flower potpourri. And it's amazing to me. I have a couple of these lying around that people have given me over time, and the smell never goes away. I have like 2 little baggies of lavender flowers that are in different places, like on windowsills in my house, and whenever I pick them up, it's like they're brand new. So the smell will last for a really, really long time. It's super, super awesome. And you just give it a good smell when you're not feeling very well, and I promise you'll feel better afterwards. So that is my last slide for the day. We have a little bit less than a minute left. Storm, you have a question or a comment?
I love it.
You love it. That's great. It seems like you all totally love it.
Love
Jaden, what do you got for us in our last minute? I'm trying to unmute you.
I did not mean to.
Oh, okay. Elijah, what you got?
Look in the chat.
Look in the chat. Can
you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. My auto was broken before.
We're probably gonna run out of time. Do you have a question, or are you just?
I was just seeing if my auto worked.
It's not broken, but we are done for the day. It's probably gonna cut us off. And I'll see you Monday. Lavender is wonderful. Yay, lavender! Woohoo!